Hello and welcome to New Game Plus. My name is Donald and I am joined by Matt on this very special occasion. Matt, what time is it?
What time is it? It's hyper clock because PAX Australia 2016 is happening right behind us right now. And no, your watch is not malfunctioning because there's so many awesome things happening, so many cosplayers, so many panels, so many developers, and so many games happening inside. So what are we doing outside?
That's a very good question. We just have to take a break because it is all encompassing. So many games from the AAA developers through to the indie titles, and even on the non-digital half, we have the card games, the board games, and of course, Matthew, the classic games.
And the classic games. So I'm just going to be cutting my teeth, spending the entire time playing Outrun 2. But that's not going to be interesting for anyone, so we're going to be showing you plenty of other amazing things.
No, the world isn't ready for your Outrun plays.
Yeah, I mean, it's just too hype.
No, but we have a very special episode for you today. We speak with some of the developers for the big titles. We speak with the indie developers. We also speak with the hardware makers too.
Yeah, so shall we get into it?
Yes.
Hey, here at PAX Australia 2016, I'm joined by Kirsty at the Nintendo booth. How's PAX been for you so far?
It's been really exciting. We absolutely are stoked to be here and to bring some awesome, playable, fun games to the PAX 2016 audience.
What are some of the newer games that have come out recently for Nintendo consoles that you're showing up here at PAX?
Well, we've got quite a few of those titles. We've got Paper Mario Color Splash on demonstration, which is super fun, such a funny game, so witty. We've also got Rhythm Paradise Mega Mix, which is a personal favourite of mine. Really great rhythm game, super fun on the Nintendo 3DS. Plus, we've also, of course, got Yokai Watch 2. Super exciting to bring Yokai Watch 2 to an Australian audience.
What's the reaction been from some of the fans that have been playing some of the newer games and even some of the classics around the Nintendo booth?
Well, it's just been so much fun. People have been able to come here, sit down, play some games. We've been having Super Smash Brothers for Wii U. We've got Mario Kart 8 as well, Mario Kart 7 with the racing car seats. So cool. So people are just coming and just having a great time. People love to come here and play those multiplayer games together.
Coming up over the next few months, you've got a few new releases for Nintendo coming up. What are some of the ones that you think people should really keep an eye out for, or ones that you're particularly excited about?
Well, we've seen a lot of excitement for Super Mario Maker for Nintendo 3DS. So we've had some Super Mario Maker for Wii U playable on the stage, but people going, oh wow, this is coming to Nintendo 3DS. So that's been really exciting. Plus, of course, a little bit of Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. We haven't got a playable here, but we've got a panel happening where we're going to be talking about, how excited people are for Pokemon. It's been such a fun year for all things Pokemon.
Pokemon Sun and Moon is releasing, when would that be?
It's November 18.
Kirsty, thank you so much for your time.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
Now I'm joined by Jamin from Common Tongue Industries with Japanese the game. Now, I guess the title makes sense, but what Japanese the game? What was the inspiration? How do we come to that point?
Well, what we had was a Japanese tutor, a Japanese teacher who had a student that was really struggling. The kid had taken Japanese 3 different times and failed. He worked very hard in class. He did all of his homework and he just couldn't pass. Everybody is familiar with the concept of being an auditory learner, a visual learner, a kinesthetic learner. It turned out that this kid was just a hardcore kinesthetic learner, and if he didn't touch it, he didn't learn it. So BJ took flashcards and put points values on the cards and made a game. The kid passed his class in 6 weeks. 5 years of development later, Japanese the game.
We are with there we go. So it is an interesting concept. I've studied it in university, and I found that was the hard part. Is just having that constant, not necessarily repetition, but reference points, because the more often you play the game, the more often you're going to have to deal with the cards. And is that something that's kind of incorporated into the way the battle system works?
Absolutely. Just like Pokemon or Magic the Gathering players don't have to read their cards every time they play them. You play for a while, you know what's on the card. As you play the game, you will internalize the information on the cards. If you study the cards, you will learn the language faster and more completely. If you just play the game, you'll learn the language anyway. It's just a question of how much, how fast.
And I guess that is the big one as well. So obviously you will encourage people to play it more and buy all the expansions and stuff, because
Well, yeah.
But how's PAX been for you guys? Like, have you seen? Has the crowd been really responsive to the concept and the idea?
Well, here we are, 2/3 of the way through the day on day 2, and I'm completely sold out of product. And we thought we brought more than enough. So Yeah, we were expecting a big response in Australia, and we got it. Quite a bit more than we bargained for. Thank you very much, Australia.
There you go. Well, and I mean, as well as that, the concept seems it would work for different languages. Like, it's not like this would be necessarily limited to Japanese.
Yes, you caught me up on that. We haven't actually announced this to the world yet. It's a little Easter egg I keep on the corner of the desk just at PAX Aus to see if anybody noticed. Mandarin the game doesn't exist yet. The Kickstarter hasn't even been announced, but yes, that is a thing. This is one of 3 decks that exists in the world. The Kickstarter will be launching shortly, and we are allowing attendees at PAX Australia to pre-order the core deck ahead of the Kickstarter launch to be at the front of the fulfillment line. We are also going to be expanding into Korean, eventually French, Spanish, German, and Russian, and on a parallel track because the educational sector is well and good, but frankly, I really like going to conventions for a living, and I'd like to continue doing so. As a thank you to the gamers and the anime fans that took us from a niche educational product to a very successful project, we are also going to be doing Dwarvish, Elvish, Klingon, Vulcan, Valyrian, and Dothraki. So keep your eyes peeled. There's a lot of really interesting stuff coming from Common Tongue Incorporated.
Well, Common Tongue, see, it's all in the name. It's
all in the name.
Anyway,
play the game, learn the language.
Look at that, on point. Jamin, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Here at PAX Oz 2016, I'm checking out Kieru from Pinefire Studios, and I'm speaking with Isaac, the creative director for the studio?
Creative lead, yeah.
Where did the idea for Kieru originally come from?
It came from a Samurai Jack episode. So the whole black and white thing was a segment where Samurai Jack fights a ninja, whole scene goes into black and white. We took that and threw Quentin Tarantino at it, and this is what came out.
What are some of the sort of evolution or the changes in the creative approach to building the game since its original inception?
The creative approach was essentially we wanted a black and white game where there was one player hiding in the shadows, one player hiding in the light, and then it was like, oh, it'd be sweet if there were ninjas, it'd be sweet if there was ridiculous amounts of blood everywhere. So we took that and we tried to make it as pretty as possible. The better it looks, the easier the game kind of plays. So we're trying to achieve that right now. So yeah.
What are some of the games that you're trying to mimic in how they move or how they feel, for example?
In terms of actual games, trying to think of some games we're taking direct reference from. Overwatch, the Genji character, we pretty much ripped that guy straight out, chucked him in here. The wall climb. We also got, what else we got? A couple of Red Steel from Wii U, or the Wii console. I'm trying to think of a lot. There was a couple, but they're not coming to me right now, yeah.
What are the platforms that you're wanting to launch on, and how are you wanting to try and support the game post-launch?
We've been greenlit, so we're guaranteed on Steam. What we want to try and do is hit early access next year, build a strong community, and roll on through to full release. Obviously, the door's wide open for consoles, so, wink, wink. So anything could happen at this point.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem, man. Cheers.
I am Antony Reed. I'm the Chief Executive of the Game Developers Association of Australia.
What is the GDAA's involvement with GCAP that we're here at today, and how does that kind of shape what the vision is for GCAP compared to some other conventions or some other shows that are happening during International Games Week?
Sure. So the GDA actually owns GCAP. It's the premier industry conference for developers. We create GCAP for the developers to have those industrial conversations. And the show is, every year it's themed, and it's based on the conversation that's happening in the industry, either locally or internationally. So the theme this year is the Shoulders of Giants, and it's where we've really come from. And the Australian industry can take a lot of pride in what it's achieved, and it's achieved as a result of a long, great history of game development. So it differs in what else is happening during Games Week, because we're not a consumer-facing show. This is trade only, and it is about skills development. So it's a very, very intense conference, and you walk away tired, but you walk away with new friends, and you walk away with a lot more knowledge.
Because it is an industry event in Games Week, there are others such as Melbourne, Unite Melbourne,
Yep.
and GCAP Loading, which is along the same lines. What is GCAP exclusively wanting to bring to the table that other industry events, and this could be more than just within Games Week, what is it trying to bring to the table that other industry events don't offer?
I mean, with something like Unite, that's obviously very specific to Unity. With PAX, it's very consumer focused. GCAP Loading is student focused. GCAP itself looks at skills and looks at how we develop as a sector. So it brings the sector together to have those conversations, and from that we can develop plans going into the future. So GCAP is not only, I suppose, an industry game development conference, it's also the conversation that an association like the GDA needs to hear, so we can plot our future course in Australia. Like, where do we want to take this industry? How do we get a maximum amount of support? And GCAP is instrumental in that.
Earlier this year, the Senate did an inquiry, the Australian Senate did an inquiry on the Australian games development scene after its ups and downs over the last few years. What really were some of the main findings that were taken away from that inquiry, and has much been done in the time since?
So the inquiry revealed presented 8 recommendations, all of which said we should be supporting this industry. And it came off the back of George Brandis cancelling the $20 million Australian Games Investment Fund, which was still a really short-sighted thing to do. How much has been done? Very little. I know that Senator Scott Ludlam is still championing the inquiry and the results of that inquiry. I think for us, the next steps is going to Canberra. We've not had a huge amount of reaction from the Arts Minister. There's very little appetite for games in that space. They seem rather drawn to very legacy-oriented entertainment forms and pumping a whole lot of money into those. So I think my next step is, okay, let's find a more progressive minister, introduce them to games, educate them about who the people are behind games and why we make games, and start the process again. There's got to be somebody within the Liberal government that is going to care at some point. You know, they're talking innovation a lot, but they don't seem to want to talk to one of the most innovative sectors there is, which is surprising.
Within that idea of innovation, obviously, a lot of the people involved with the GDA are based here in Melbourne, and Film Victoria has been really spoken about in supporting games and games development, games culture in a really monumental way, and International Games Week is probably a good sign of that.
Yep.
From what you've seen in other states like South Australia, New South Wales, Queensland, what have you seen other states do that maybe developers more locally here in Melbourne or Victoria more widely would do well to take note of?
There's multiple answers to that question. The states are starting to come together and back games. I mean, Queensland has been incredibly proactive recently, and they've certainly looked at the models in Victoria, and they're adopting a financing model for game development, which would be great, and it'll be under one big screen program, which is lovely. It means that we're not sort of isolated and put to the side as, it's the games people over there. Games has become as important as film and TV. New South Wales lagging behind, but Adelaide or South Australia has always been really pro its games industry. They don't have the amount of funding that I think they would actually like to have to provide game developers. And WA, these are small communities and they're still growing, and so it's really difficult for the government to justify putting money in, but that's going to change, and it'll change in the next 12 months. In Victoria's, it's different because way back in Jeff Kennett's day, he recognised the importance of technology and innovation, and he implemented the games program, so the digital media program out of Film Victoria. And the government's been really proactive. So Creative Victoria, who put a lot of backing behind Melbourne International Games Week, they also support Film Victoria. They provide the funding to Film Victoria for production. They are really proactive, and I don't know if you saw Minister Foley's speech this morning. He is the reigning parliamentary champion in Crossy Road. He loves games. His kids love games. He gets it, and he's made a concerted effort to understand why and who, and that makes a difference. When you have somebody that is that progressive and sees the value to the state going forward, that makes a difference. And those kind of ministers are few and far between, unfortunately. We need thinkers in government, and thankfully in Victoria we absolutely have one. We're seeing the same in Queensland right now. The more thinkers we get, the more games will come to the fore.
Thank you so much for your time, Anthony.
Oh, anytime.
We are here at PAX Rising as part of PAX 2016. But screw 2016, let's go back to the 1980s, shall we? First up, I want to talk about Dead State Drive, which is an isometric game where you go on a road trip, on an adventure of self-discovery, but along the way, you have to try and deal with the various evil forces that come up. It's a very, like, for one, the game has a very striking sort of cel-shaded, flat-shaded look. It's just striking from a distance. But aside from the action as well, it has a sort of unintentionally Dark Souls kind of feel to it, as using guns to, expends your stamina meter as you try and take down the various bosses. But even then, you don't even have to take down the enemies, the various cults that come along the way. You can, if you want, just try and help them out and try and figure out their problem too. Or you can just straight up shoot them in the face. But the game has a very sort of dreamlike feel to it, like as you'd expect from a road trip game. It is coming out sometime in the next year, and it does look quite good. Next up, we go full 80s glam with The Artful Escape of Francis Vendetti, which is a game in which you're about to go to your first concert, you're about to perform there. However, you're trying to look for your stage presence, your persona. So you have to go to a multi-dimensional multiverse just filled with monsters that'll teach you how to rock. It's a side-scrolling platforming game, and it's got musical elements too, but the thing that's really striking is how shiny it all looks. It's kind of reminiscent of Journey, if filtered through a purple haze, a purple rain, if you will. I'm very interested to see how the musicality is going to fit into it, but I'm also interested to see what they can do with the art direction, because at the moment it leaves a fantastic first impression. And finally, we've been talking about some serious games, but let's go to the other extreme of the 80s. So the over-the-top neon excess with Hyper Jam, which is a local 4-player brawler in which you have your environments, you grab your objects, and you just try and thwack your opponents with them. It's very reminiscent of Power Stone rather, if that's your point of reference, or if you're feeling a little bit newer, something like Gang Beasts. It's not much original going on here, but all the ideas that it uses, it cohesively puts them together in a fantastic package. The various the multiplayer games that I've seen at PAX, everyone just had the time of their lives, and the game just oozes style, that sort of neon thing. If that sort of even slightly appeals to you, then the style of Hyper Jam is exactly what you're looking for. So that does it for this 80s edition of the Indie Bundle at PAX 2016. Stay tuned to New Game Plus for more coverage of games and indie games and such.
It's that moment where I've committed to leaving, but I haven't left the earth yet. Nothing you can do but charge forward.
What I love the most in the mountains is that I can do anything I want. It's pure freedom.
You know, there's always a bit of fear. If you don't have a little fear, then you're a little crazy, I think.
Nothing else matters up here. All the chaos is just gone. No one else around.
The moment my feet leave the earth, everything else disappears.
Got my own monster.
It's pure adrenaline.
Nobody but me.
It's what I live for.
I would never call him enemy. He's too bad, God. She's too good, God, I need. I got my own angel. She's too good, God, I need.
The mountain is your canvas, you can paint your own picture. That's what the beauty of it is.
The most important thing for me is to try something that never been done before.
Am I scared? Sure. But fear can be a tool. It can keep you performing beyond what you think your limits are.
comes down to it, there are a fair few big industries here within PAX Australia. One of them in particular was Ubisoft. Now, Ubisoft has the usual yearly inclusions involving Just Dance 2017, which still is a hell of a lot of fun, but we're going to talk about 3 games I managed to preview during my visit here. So, first one, South Park, The Fractured Butthole. Now, yes, we get the joke, it's all funny and stuff, but it is a continuation of South Park, The Stick of Truth, Obsidian's RPG that came out several years ago, but instead of a turn-based grassroots combat system, it's taken more of a tactical combat approach where you occupy particular spaces, a grid-based structure within battlegrounds, and you fight based on particular spaces where you're located. So there is a bit of spacing involved, and a lot of strategy involved when knocking back certain enemies, healing specific enemies, utilizing certain skills with characters where they're a bit more melee-based or ranged. Now, the game in particular, it works on a functional level, but does feel a little bit sterile, unfortunately. Hopefully, we can get a lot more play a little bit later on, and does manage to bring a little bit more variety into it. Second game was Steep. Now, definitely the weakest of the games that I played. It is a game very similar to that of SSX when you're on this big Arctic mountain area, using a combination of wing gliders, snowboards, skiing, as well as walking for some strange reason. And while it does work, while the controls are fairly simple to work, the timing is a little bit off, and it is a game that nobody unfortunately asked for, but it still is pretty functional. Hopefully we get to see a little bit more down the line. Now, my favorite game that Ubisoft showcased was For Honor. So For Honor is a game where you play as 3 different classes: Vikings, the Japanese Kenshin, as well as Vanguards. And every single one of them are all-rounders or really powerful, and being able to fight enemies in a PvP, close quarters combat game, it's very heavy on jumping in, blocking, riposting, guard breaking, and attacking when the time is right. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully there's a lot of support for it, because it's a game that works so well on a functional level, looks amazing, and is just a visual, it's just spectacular to look at and play all at the same time. So hopefully it does get the support it needs when it hits February next year. And that's all for Ubisoft. Great show all around, and I'm just going to go back to Just Dance.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does it for another PAX for another year. Matt, how was yours?
Oh, it was brilliant. It's probably one of the biggest PAXs of forever. Even trumping PAX 2013, which was the opening year. Just so many great people involved. So much retro stuff, some new stuff, old, something new, something old, something borrowed, something blue. It's just everything about PAX this year was awesome. So if you missed it, that's unfortunate.
There's always next year, but no, this year, like, the sense of community amongst all the goers was especially apparent. You had, like, so many fantastic cosplayers. Like, there was a fantastic Reinhardt cosplay floating around, but of course, so many Mercies, so many Soldier 76s. There was even a Simpsons Bootmaster floating around as well.
Yeah, even managed to cosplay as Mettaton at some point as well, but there was so many good traces too. Male traces as well, but still...
Maces? Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay. Anyway, like I think I do speak for everyone here that we're both all simultaneously glad and sad that it's over.
Yeah, I look forward to not having my voice tomorrow, but in the meantime, thank you to everyone who said hello to us on the show floor, who attended our myriad panels throughout PAX 2016. Your presence was muchly appreciated.
And won all of our prizes. So, same time next year.
Same time next year, we don't have any more Duke Nukem keychains, thank goodness for that. But in the meantime, that wraps it up for this week of New Game Plus. If you want to follow us on Facebook, we are New Game Plus TV.
Yes, be sure to subscribe to us here at youtube.com/New Game Plus TV.
And to subscribe to us on Twitch as well. Same thing, New Game Plus TV, and Instagram as well. What's that address?
That is New Game Plus TV.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much, Matt.
It's been a pleasure, Donald.
And we'll see you next week.